Topher, I'm cracking my knuckles here, brother.
Okay.
I need to do some conversating. So, last week, I got my key for Hyper Light Breaker. I've been playing Hyper Light Breaker a little bit. I probably have about 6 or 7 hours in there. If I was to review this last week, I would have ripped this game to shreds. I would have talked about how much I hated it, how difficult it is, how unintuitive it is, how it doesn't explain any of its systems. Like, it is just, it's a mess. It is not fun. However, after I got the key, promised to stream it on Twitch, I was very vocal when it started. I'm like, hey guys, I'm not gonna lie to you. The beginning here, I am not enjoying this game. I'm having a rough time. Right now, the best thing, we might get like a Danny rage quit kind of thing. Like, Danny's so mad, this is funny. That might be what we get out of this. Luckily, my buddy Super Nintendad also received a key. He had been playing it on GeForce Now. I messaged him the night before. I'm like, hey man, this is what I'm dealing with. I'm hating. He's like, I'm dealing with the same stuff, but I'm kind of loving it. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? How? I was like, I'm just having a good time. Now, cloud saves weren't working. So he's had to start the game over multiple times because playing on GeForce Now, you couldn't save your stuff to go back to your computer or whatever. So I'm like, brother, I would have quit then and there. But there was something about his enthusiasm that made me go like, I gotta find what you like about this game. I'm not seeing it. But anyone who's unfamiliar, so from Heart Machine, who have made Hyper Light Drifter and Solar Ash, Hyper Light Breaker is this very Risk of Rain-esque adventure. You play as, I guess, the Breakers. Again, the game doesn't really explain itself a lot, so I don't know what I'm actually doing out here. I understand the objective, but narratively, not sure what we're doing. We're just kind of existing. But yeah, so you spawn in this world, you generate a roguelike world, which you have 4 lives for. You have 4 reses. You go out, you explore an open world. Every time you die, you lose a res. Once you die 4 times, that world is destroyed. Like it's like resetting. So it's almost like doing a regular roguelike where you have 4 lives. And then once you lose that 4 life, you start a new run. So that's kind of the easiest way to explain it. As I was starting this game, I realized earlier that if you're playing alone, this game is just way too difficult. This game, in no way have I found fun playing alone. I hop in the world, they spawn 7 or 8 enemies at one time, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when I'm getting used to the combat, I'm like slash, smack, dodge, whatever, and then one of the guys smacks me on the ass and I'm already down a third of my health. I'm like, fuck, that's a lot. I can't do with that. Luckily, I can get med kits, right? Nope. There is a med kit option. They show like, here's where your health packs go. You have 0. I'm like, cool. Where do I find med kits? It's not told to you. You don't know where to go get med kits. I'm assuming I'm going to find them eventually. They're out here in the world somewhere. I'm going to get one. But I still couldn't fucking find one. I have no idea where these med kits are. The only source of healing that I found is there are upgrades, which every now and again, like when you execute something, you heal a little bit. Nothing substantial, maybe a fifth of how much damage an enemy does anyway. So like, it's still not great. And then there's little flowers you pick up, which will each give you like 5 health. And they give you these things called Medigems or something like that. I'm like, not sure what these are. Let's find out. Later I go back, I die, I go back. In the shop, there is an upgrade where you have to spend, I don't know what the currency called. It looks like a trading card pack. It's like a booster card. You have to use one of these to purchase the upgrade to have medkits.
What?
Which I'm like, that's ridiculous. The fact that medkits is an upgrade that I don't even get, I hated that. But yeah, so finally I get this upgrade. I get the upgrade so I can actually, use medkits. Now the problem is I have to find these flowers I'm talking about, which give me the currency to then craft a medkit, but it takes 5 of those flowers to make 1 medkit. And the medkit almost, at least where I was at for health wise, almost fills up your health bar again. But then when I use that, I have to go find 5 more flowers to make 1 more med kit. And with the amount of damage you take, it just doesn't balance out. The amount of the ability to heal and do anything is just so frustrating. And listen, I have a sticky note, Topher, of all the issues I've got with this fucking game. Let me tell you. Why so hard? Enemies spawn. Oh yeah, there was a point where a bunch of enemies spawned in like into a wall and they kept like growling at me. I'm like, where are they at? They're on the map. I'm like, oh, they're in a wall. There's nothing I can do about it. Whatever, they're fine. The other big complaint I think I have, so the way equipment works, which I think on paper is really cool. All of your items have durability, right? So very Breath of the Wild, which might immediately sound like a turnoff, right? You get an item, every time you die, the durability decreases by 1. So depending what it, like you can get a basic item that has 1 health. You can get an upgrade item that has 3 health or something like that. So if I go in, I'm on my first run, I have my whole loadout equipped and I die, there'll be a moment where like, all right, decrease. If it breaks, it's gone, it's done. If it's a 3-part, it'll break 1, you still have 2 more runs with it, etc. I like the concept of this, I'm like, oh, interesting. It makes me have to like really pay attention to what I equipped and what's it going to work. I think the problem is a lot of the perks that I pick up are so irrelevant to my kit. Like the amount of times I picked up like this will increase your I'm making up words here because I can't think of what they were, but like increase your bludgeoning damage. But like I don't have a bludgeoning weapon. Like I don't have anything. I have a sword. Or like increase the rate or how fast your gun recharges. I think it's called a rail, which is what they call it, guns. But until they did the first patch, you're not guaranteed a gun. If I would go into the world, I'd find a gun and die. It has 1 health bar. I immediately lose the gun. So now I just have a sword. So any ranged abilities are gone until I find another gun. And then die again and it breaks again and blah, 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 blah. So it gets really frustrating at the fact that like my kit gives me the option to do things that I just don't have the capabilities of doing. So it was just real rough back and forth of like, I feel like I have to suffer for hours to get to a point where I'm even remotely comfortable with this game, which is not okay, which is not fun. I really hated that. Let me get a little more positive here. Let's go.
Okay.
Visually, I love what I'm seeing. I love Heart Machine style. There's something about it that feels a little emptier than I would get with like a Solar Ash or a Hyperlight Drifter in terms of how much detail there is in like their particular style. I don't think I'm getting that in this game. That being said, I still love the color palette. I love the character designs. I wish as far as the world went, it meant a little more. Like the world felt like it had something to do with all the design and everything. I'm not getting that. But still, visually, I love what I'm seeing. Performance-wise, I'm still going to chalk it up to like my PC not being top tier, so it kind of sucks a little bit. But, you know, I would like to think on a console version later, this will run so much better for me. And then I'll talk about playing it co-op. So after I messaged Super Nintendo, I'm like, hey, I'm hating this game. What do I got to do? He's like, hey, listen, if you want to play, I'm like, I'm streaming it on Thursday. If you want to come along, join in here, join the call. Let's talk about it. Let's play this game. He hopped in. He's like, so you did this. We go here. We get this. We got to do a thing. I'm like, okay, I'm understanding a little bit more. But then we got into a horde fight and I survived the fight. Like if you're watching the YouTube video now, you're watching me currently fight like 9 people alone with 1 health. It's not good. When I did this with 2 people, I was like, wait, I survived an encounter? Holy cow. Like, I don't think there's multiplayer health. Like when you do like a Monster Hunter fight, right? You're like, oh, cool. There's 4 of us. So the monster will have 4 players worth of health. So it's balanced out. But when you do it single player, it has 1 player's worth of health. So it still like works out. This feels like the enemies have 1 established set of health. And that is how it's meant to be. If I play it alone, I'm playing on hard mode. Not even like it beat my ass to death hard mode. But when I was like, oh, cool, you can focus on these guys. I can focus on these guys. I actually got to fight a boss playing in co-op. Clearly has come to me that this is a game that you can play solo or you can play co-op. Please don't play it solo. Don't play this game alone. It is not fun. From what I've heard, I guess the matchmaking is not great. So when I pulled it up, it looked like it was fine. I was able to see like, here's somebody's lobby I can just join. I don't know what the culture's like. For like, get out of my lobby. I'm only playing with friends, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know. But it seems like if I wanted to find randos online, I could. But if you're someone who's like, I want to play with friends and you're finding it hard to convince your friends to buy the game, I think it's going to be hard to have a good time. I really do, which is like so unfortunate because this game was something I was so much looking forward to. I really wanted to love this game, and I still think I could. I think this could do the No Man's Sky thing of fixing everything. They've immediately put out patches of like, okay, we realize the health is not good. We've increased everybody's health by 10, except for this guy who increased it by 5. We now default, you do have a pistol, so you will have a ranged weapon. Like they've done a lot of things in this first week to improve on just the basic stuff, but that has not improved the entire experience of the game, which right now I'm like, I really don't want to play anymore until I know like it is leagues and bounds better than where it's at. But yeah, I'm not happy to say how much I dislike this so far. It doesn't feel good. I was like, after we just did our most anticipated and this was one of the first ones I talked about, I'm like, fuck, that's a letdown. That's a big letdown.
It kind of worries me that I remember when it was on show during like game shows last year, and people played it and they were already talking about balancing issues. To then find those balancing issues still being a thing when the game releases, even though it's early access, it kind of feels like they're not really listening all that well to like player feedback. It's good that they're now responding with like patches, but the fact that it's not really doing that much yet has me kind of worried.
Yeah, I think it's got a long way to go before I think it's like what would be considered high quality. And I bring this up after last year, right? 2024 was the year of like, why is this early access game so fucking good? With Hades 2, with Beastie Ball, with Fields of Mystria, with Manor Lords. Like, we had beat for beat early access game that was basically like, it felt complete even though it wasn't. And then like, this is the first example for 2025 of like, wow, this is the stigma that early access has, and I don't like that. Like, this is why I think people don't like early access, because we get something like this. And I would love to see them reset course, fix what's wrong here, and be like, cool, we fixed it. But I still think that's now, like, we've further established that early access is not the way to go for gamers. So like, I'm not going to buy a game till it's done, which for some companies can be detrimental, especially for indies of like, we need to get a game out now so people will pay for it and play it. But I think if you put out something that's not going to function and feel like the gamer wasted their money on something like this, and again, I say this as someone who received a review code, but had I spent my money on it, I don't often feel like I've wasted my money these days. I'm like, I still got an experience, whatever. This is something like, fuck, I spent money on this, dude. I'd be pretty upset with that.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the Steam page, and it has a mixed status at the moment, with only 61% of reviews being positive.
Yeah, it's
what is disheartening.
And if I'm thinking, when I read some of those reviews, a lot of them are like, hey, the game's pretty bad. I like it, but here's a lot of things that are wrong. Which, you know, depending on, that's if you go through and look at the reviews, a lot of people are just like the IGN articles. You look at the number and then move on from there, as opposed to like, you know, reading the in-depth of it. I think some people have some great criticism and things to fix, but giving you that positive review is tough. Like, I know we talked earlier, I was like, I want to do my due diligence and do more Steam reviews this year. I'm like, fuck, it's the first thing I'm going to do, be like, this game's dog ass. Like, I don't want to do that, but I feel like it maybe that's the sentiment of like, we see how icky it feels to be like, I'm holding, if you want a positive review, you better fix the game. Like, that feels icky to me, right? I don't like that. But also like, maybe that's what, I don't know.
That's the sad thing about Steam, is that it doesn't have anything between positive and negative.
Right. It's just one or the other. Just, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I will see this game be better. This game will be good eventually. We bring up the Nintendo quote of like, a bad game or a delayed game can still be good. A bad game is bad forever. Like, we've heard it a million times. This feels like one of those like evidence of like, here we go. We should have maybe a little more time in the oven to sort this out. Or to say that right now, Possessors is my most anticipated Heart Machine game from this year, I think speaks volumes. The fact that I have this one in my hands, I'm like, ugh, what's next? Like, I'm ready to move on to the next thing. So fingers crossed that, again, this gets improved, but right now I can't recommend anybody pick this up unless you and your friends are like, we're gung-ho, we're gonna give this a shot and play together. I had so much fun co-op. Still a lot of issues. Everything I complained about is still there. It doesn't just magically make guns last longer and health packs show up sooner and blah 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 blah, but it's an experience with friends that feels so much more rewarding than just getting your teeth kicked in for hours. So
it's something that I had been wondering about before the game released, that Devolver were ready to pick up Possessors, but they weren't ready to pick up Hyper Light Breaker.
Yeah, interesting.
I wonder if that has to do with like the direction the developer wanted to go with it, or what.
Yeah, I would love to have someone from Devolver here, because I would love to sit down and, you know, we talked about, we would love to do more interview type things this year. So indie devs, anyone in the indie space who wants to have a conversation, I'd love to sit down with someone from Devolver, or even like someone from Xbox when it comes to Game Pass, and see like, what do those conversations look like when adding a game to your catalog, right? I'd love to be like, Devolver, when are you reaching out to people? Are you finding games? Are they coming to you? Is it a mixture of the two? Is there a threshold of quality of like, sorry, your game doesn't like fit our Devolver standards? Because you're saying that like, this was their game. If they were working with Heart Machine, why not this one? So it does sound like it could have been like a quality thing of like, or it was Heart Machine being like, hey, we're working on Possessors, we want to bring this to you, and they're like, that feels like our vibe, let's work with that one together. This is a lot of what do we think is the case as opposed to any actual fact, but yeah, it's interesting to think about for sure. But yeah, my thoughts on Hyper Light Breaker. I really hope this game gets better soon.
But also, visually, no one does it like Heart Machine.
True. Facts. They got a style, bro. And that's why Possessors, I haven't lost hope. That game still looks gorgeous as fuck.
It does.